Toastmasters and facilitator. I am Kavya Gopalakrishnan from Eminent Toastmasters Club, and I welcome you all to the Wednesday Wisdom series today, that is to conduct club elections, how to conduct club elections. So, as we are nearing that time of the year where all the clubs are prepping up to elect their new set of leaders, it is imperative that we know the procedures and protocols to conduct a meeting, election successfully, as that is a very crucial and, in fact, the first step for any club success. So, to help us in this, we have our facilitator, distinguished Toastmaster Arvind Nair, who will help us through understanding how to conduct a club election successfully. Arvind Nair has been past district director of District 98. He is now the advisor to Division B, S and M, also fondly known as Ancient Arvind, obviously for the book of knowledge that he is to all of us. So with that, welcome you, Arvind, and over to you.
Thank you, Kavya. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Before I begin, let me ask you, why did you join Toastmasters? If you could put it in the chat, why did you join Toastmasters? Hardik is the chat. Okay. All right. So I do find that two main things arising here are communication skills, leadership skills, and build networking. Now your communication skills will automatically come there when you pick up when you give your speeches. But how do you get your leadership qualities and enhance your leadership skills? That is by taking up roles at the meeting. And when you take up a role at the meeting, you need to prepare for that role. And that's how you begin to increase, or you begin to enhance your leadership skills, because you require a certain amount of skill, a knack to connect, to understand, to then communicate. So all these are helpful to you. There's also one other aspect of why you have to be a leader. In a club just can't function. It has got n number of members, and every club needs to have an executive committee to help to run the club. Now, this is one more aspect of how you can improve on your leadership skills. You improve by taking up and trying to lead the club. So you have 7 members. You become a leader when you get into the executive committee role. And that's how you begin to lead the club, because there needs to be somebody there needs to be a group that can steer the members towards achieving the Toastmasters International goals. So may we have the first slide, please? Thank you. I'll just go through the presentation here, and my talk will be on why, when, who, and how, and then the process of elections. Now I'll begin the why. I've already said that you need to improve on your leadership skills. And also, Kavik, put on to the next slide, please. And also, I need to jog your memory. And this is something that I always like to do when we begin probably an education session, or when we actually have either the induction or the installation ceremony. I must remind everyone once again that we do have a Toastmasters promise. And there's one very important line or important aspect of the promise which says that to serve my club as an officer when called to do so. Now, what happens is when you are inducted, that's the only time and you are totally new, but you just go through the motion and then you say, I do at the end and forget about it, and then get into the networking and all the other aspects, and then don't bother about the promise. So, and that's the reason why I like to reiterate that we need to mention the promise from time to time, so that people are aware that you have already committed yourself to the promise and to furthering the cause of Toastmasters. So you need to also step up and help in getting to be a leader in the club as well, because that's where leadership begins for you. Also remember that as you progress in your communication and to get the distinguished Toastmaster title, the ultimate one, you need to have performed your role as an executive committee member at the club level. Now, there are some, what happens is in a corporate club, when they start, they don't actually have the elections. The person, the HR or whoever would nominate so and so, so and so and so and so. But let's come to once the club is formed and the elections have to be held later on in the year, then what happens to corporate and community clubs? You need to identify who the leaders would be, and we need to have there are elections to be conducted twice a year. The Toastmaster year being from the 1st of July until the 30th of June. So if your club meets on a weekly basis, then you will have 2 elections in that year. You will have to elect an executive committee for every half a year. So you have to have an election in the month of the first meeting of November for if you are a semi-annual club, and in the first week of May if you are an annual club. Now I'm sure we are all you would know that a semi-annual club is one that meets every week, and an annual club is that one which meets every fortnight. So you need to have two elections. Now, when I've already completed the why and the when, the elections are to be held in the first week, at the first meeting of May and the first meeting of November, of May and November. Kavi, can we go on to the next slide, please? Now, who is supposed to conduct the elections and what is the procedure? Now, what happens is the president will nominate a club leadership committee. The chair, he will appoint a chair, who is the club leadership chair. And it's usually the immediate past president. If the immediate past president, or certain clubs do not have an immediate past president, then a senior member, a senior Toastmaster from outside can can come in and help the club to conduct to become the club leadership chair of the committee. And and the person has to be a paid member, as in he has to have his membership current. He must be a member in good standing. Now what happens is sometimes for some reason you can't find an IPDD or a senior Toastmaster within your club, and there may be issues in the club. So the best thing is to have somebody from outside. You can have somebody from another club or from the area or the division or the district to come and help you with the election process. Next slide, please. Now, what happens? It is the club leadership chair appoints a committee. It's a 2-member committee in the club. You'll have to have 2 members from the club, and the club leadership chair 2 weeks, probably say in the 3 weeks to 4 weeks before you actually you have to set the date. Suppose you're having it in the first week of May, then in the first week of April, you need to send out an email. Now the club committee, the club leadership chair would send out the invitation or the email to the club members calling for nominations for each of the 7 positions of the executive committee. There would be a description of each role, and then the person would decide whether he needs to apply for a particular role. The chair will appoint 2 members from the club, or if the club is very new and do not have members who are experienced enough, then we can have 2 members from outside to help with the elections. So he invites the nominations by an email. Now it's very imperative that no copies are marked to anyone when you respond, and you only respond to the chair, not to the president, no copies to any other member, but only to the chair. That's why I mentioned the response will go only to the club leadership chair. Once the date, there should be an end by date by which the nominations should come in, and then the committee of 2 members would interview each of the candidates for the various positions that they have applied for. Now, that is why we say that you need to have it at least a month, 4 weeks before the actual election date that you are set for, so that you can take a week or so to get the nominations, and then take another week or so to conduct the interviews, and then be ready with the slate. Now, on the day of the next slide, please, Kavya. Now we come to the election process. You've already got this. They have already conducted the interviews and they have the names, but the names are not divulged and they're kept aside till the day of the actual election. So on the day of the election, the chair will display the names of all the people who have passed the interview and who have been nominated and selected. So the slate is displayed. Now, when you are holding the election, it may be just after a meeting, or you may even call for a special election meeting. But if you are having it after a normal meeting, please ensure that only members are present. No guests or visiting Toastmasters need to be in that meeting. So please have them leave, And of course, the visiting Toastmasters already know that they're not supposed to be present, but the guests would not know, and it can explain to the guests that this is a business meeting for only the members of the club. So then once they leave and it's only the members that are there, ensure that the members who are there are are current members, that is, they are members in good standing and they have paid their membership dues, etc. But if there's somebody who's not has not paid his due, he's not an active member, so you may ask him to leave. You then have your members must be present to vote. The second thing is you, all the member, all the seven or eight, I mean, whoever is there on the slate, all those people standing for election have to be present in the meeting. Now, what you need, you can begin the election process only after you have a quorum. A quorum for a club election is a majority of members. Now, to ensure that you have a majority of members, please ensure that the club president or the VP education sends out the message well in advance and requests the members to attend the meeting so that the elections can be conducted and the quorum is met. Now, it's very important for every member of the club, whether you are, in whatever position you are, always read the club leadership handbook. It's a soft copy that can be downloaded from the Toastmasters International site. I would urge even the experienced members to keep reading so that the senior members can also refresh their can refresh their knowledge and explain to the newer members how things can be done. And please remember, it's very imperative for you to look at, you perhaps may have a physical copy with you, but please ensure to understand which is the date mentioned there on the first page. They always update, so you must have the latest. So the best thing would be, even if you have a physical copy, please ensure that you look up the current one, which is shown on the Toastmasters International site. And the current existing one on the Toastmasters International site is dated 02/20. So please ensure that you are reading from that manual, which is 02/20. Now, now we must start with the elections. Now, how do we, once we have the quorum, once we have shown the names of the people who have been interviewed, so the president is the one who will conduct the elections. The chair will only be there to help and probably to answer some questions. The president begins by saying that, and you start off with the election for the president. You may have, if in a physical meeting, you may have ballots, but but mostly now, considering we are meeting online, you probably can have a poll with the names. So how do you do that? I mean, how do you begin? The president begins by saying that so-and-so has been nominated for the position of president. Are there any ones coming from the floor? Are there any more people who would wish to apply for this position? So he waits he has to ask that at least twice, giving a little interval of time. If there isn't anyone who comes from the floor, then the secretary or even if it's a new club, then you can just have the chair cast a symbolic vote in favor of that person, and then that person gets elected as the president. If you have two people coming, if there is another person or more than one person coming from the floor, then we need each of the three members to give a 2-minute speech on. They literally have to sell themselves to say, vote for me. So there is a 2-minute speech that each of them gives. And how do you decide who comes when? It is alphabetical order of the second name. The person with the earliest alphabet of the second name will speak first for 2 minutes. So you have the timer timing the person speaking. And once 2 minutes are over, you can ask him to stop, or in an online meeting, you could mute the person. Then you ask the next person to speak, and then the third person to speak. And after the three people have spoken, then you will conduct the poll, asking the members to vote for one of them. And you can have that open for a minute or two, depending on the membership of the club. You need not waste time in waiting for 5 minutes. If you just have 30 members, it doesn't take more than a couple of seconds to click and understand who to vote for. So give them to err on the safer side, give them a minute to vote, or 2 minutes to vote for the person. Once that is done, then probably the person who gets the thing could be the chair. The committee chair needs to know what the polling is, and then he will declare the results. And then once the person is declared and the results, the person gets the maximum votes. See, he needs to get the more than 50% of the votes to win. And that's why we say we want the majority of the members to come in. Once he is elected, once the results are out, the president finishes, and that position is over. The next position, it has to go in the order that Toastmasters International gives. It's the Vice President Education, which comes next. They follow the same procedure, calling for nominations from the floor, then the 2-minute speech, and then the poll, and then the result is declared. It goes on till the Vice President Education, the Vice President Membership, Vice President Public Relation, Secretary, Treasurer, and finally the Sergeant at Arms. So once you have each of these members elected, then the election process is over. But what happens in some cases, you may not have all the positions being filled up. It's mandatory to have the president, the secretary. These are the two mandatory, and third position is one of the vice presidents. So you need 3 members in the executive committee minimum to run the show. But also remember that to get a DLC, the club, when you need to get a goal for the club, you need to have 4 members being trained. So ensure that you have 4 people. You can have the secretary and treasurer as one person, but please ensure that you have 4 people going in for training and you have 4 positions. Immediately after the elections and you have all the 7 members elected, ensure that you upload the name in Club Central, because you help the club get half a point towards the next year's goal. If it is an annual club, then you get the half point for the next year, and if it is a semi-annual club, then you help the club to get it in this year. You also, this is the way that it has to happen. If it is a semi-annual club, then the elections have to take place in the first week of November, in the first meeting of November, and before 31st of December, you must upload the names of the new executive committee. Now, why do we say that we must have elections 1 month prior to the closing of each year? It's because once the elections are done and the members, the executive committee members know who they are, then the handover needs to take place in that 1 month's time. So if you have a semi-annual thing, then in November, when you by 15th of November, if you finish your elections, then the handover should take place. So the current ExCom will mention all the different tasks, etc., to these people so that they are ready to take it up from the 1st of January, or if it's an annual one, from the 1st of July. What we must ensure that all these rules and regulations are followed. Please, if there are any questions, we could take some of the questions now. I know we are all on an online meeting now, and I did read somewhere that they said, but if you look at the position of the sergeant at arms, the sergeant at arms in a physical meeting has quite a bit of jobs to do. But on an online meeting, he or she has nothing else to do but to open the meeting, and that's all. But what has happened is that we may like to find somebody for the sergeant at arms who is technically savvy, so that he can be the one who opens the meeting, displays the timing or something of that sort. Give him some extra, anything to do with maybe the certificates, or even helping out with whatever to show the screens, etc., to mute, unmute. So these are to spotlight a person. So get somebody as the sergeant at arms. I don't recommend, but I suggest that, because if you just appoint a sergeant at arms, remember you're getting credit for something that you're not doing. No work is coming out of it, and on an online meeting, you are not enhancing your skills as a sergeant at arms, because your duties there are just very minimal. Just open the meeting and that's all. So you try and get the sergeant at arms who is technically savvy, so that he can contribute and improve on his skills as a leader as well. So these are some of the things that you need to do in an election. I will take some questions if there are any.
Arvind, hi, Nancy here.
Yes,
Arvind,
Nancy.
yeah. Okay, two scenarios. First scenario, you said that the president conducts the elections, correct?
Yes.
Right. So in a situation where you have the president for a semi-annual club, where the president can take 2 terms, correct? Consecutive terms, right? Right. So if the president is going to nominate himself or herself for the second term, which is valid, as opposed to 1 year, can the president still conduct that elections?
No, that then what happens is, that's why I said you'll have to have somebody else from outside to help you out. And also remember, the president can be in that position only for a maximum of 1 year or
Yeah.
2 terms, 2 consecutive terms, if he wants to get that recognition towards the DTM.
Correct. Right. And the second scenario is midway, one of the ExCom members chooses to leave because of constraints. In that case, if the election process is still followed, where you have to send
Yes,
out a message to
yes.
everybody, so it's prerogative of the ExCom just to pick up somebody and then appoint it right away
No,
without
see,
consulting the mandate.
always understand that all the members have the right here because they are electing their officers. So if there is a vacancy which happens due to any unforeseen circumstances, then you need to conduct an election just for that meeting. The president will
Absolutely.
conduct it. So you don't need to have a chair and all that. So the president can conduct it. Now, what happens is there are certain clubs who take on somebody as their buddy and stuff like that. So that somebody who helps them, and they say, okay, you come and sort of assist me, and then you will learn how to do it. Or there are some Toastmasters who are enthusiastic about learning how to do a particular role, etc. So what happens is they get to know how it is done, and they are already accustomed to it. But please, they cannot and they do not automatically get into that position when the elections happen or when the positions open up. So please do not give them false hopes. Elections have to be conducted. The person has to go through the interviews and get elected. But yes, he is at an advantage because he already knows the workings of that particular position. And it's also, if you find that you are not getting nominations coming in from within, what you would do is to encourage some of the members. Even the chair can encourage members to take up the leadership role, and then the elections can happen. So you are automatic, and this is why you have your leaders, the current leaders, also looking at the members in the club and understanding, because the movement has to go forward. Today, I was elected, but tomorrow I also need to elect somebody because somebody saw some leadership qualities in me and ensured that I came up. So it is your duty also to ensure the continuity of the movement and to help and identify leaders and to groom them as well.
I mean, that's exactly what I wanted to establish loud and clear that no matter what happens, midway, you still have the democratic process, which is the elections, and it has to be conducted. And you cannot pull someone just because it's a buddy and you feign the person and overnight announce and say that, yes, this person is selected without fair elections. That's what Toastmasters International is. Thank you.
That's what they want, and that's how it is to be done.
Can I ask a question?
Kusuma?
We are new, yeah. Good evening, Mr. Nair. Yeah. So I just wanted to ask one question, that we are a new club, and you
Yes.
said that we can only have 2 terms, but
Yes.
it should be either from 1st of January or 1st of July. Our club has
See,
started. Yeah. Tell me.
yeah, your club has started midway. So it's
Correct.
okay. And since you are a fortnightly club, it can go beyond 12 months because you have to come into that cycle of Toastmasters. So it's okay for you. But remember that you need now, because you have already paid up, etc. You need to before the 30th of June, you need to go and update on Club Central, the names, the same names will be there, but the terms will change.
Okay.
That means you are there from 1st of July 2021 until the 30th of June of 2022. You need to change the date, even if it is the same member. And
Yeah.
like Lancy said, if there is somebody else who has to come in between, then ensure that that person's name is corrected, or ensure is put up on the Toastmasters International updated there. Because always remember that for the district and for the division, they take those names, because you also have another task of voting at the district election. So if it's the president or the vice president education, then please ensure your names are correct, and also ensure, I know the corporates, some of the corporates want to have only the corporate email ID, and sometimes they give their personal ID and there's a mismatch. So you may lose your vote because you don't actually get invited, because you are logging in with your personal ID, but only the email ID that has gone to Toastmasters and is with Toastmasters will be considered for the district elections.
Thank you.
Next, we have Saurav Tiwari, who has raised his hand.
Yes, Saurav,
Okay.
please speak.
Yeah. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are, Saurav.
Thank you. So, sir, I have read one point somewhere that for any existing club, the election chair is ideally the IPP, the immediate past president, not the
Yes.
current one. Is it correct?
Yes, it has to be the immediate past president who will be the committee, will be the club leadership committee chair, and he will conduct the interviews, etc. But the president will conduct the elections.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I urge each of you to please read the club leadership handbook. It's available. It can be downloaded from the net. Now, these particular things about the elections are available on page 53 and 54 of the club leadership handbook.
Hasnain Changi has a question.
Yes, Hasnain.
Good evening, Arvind and everybody. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Question was, since the president is conducting the elections, is it okay if he also decides to contest the elections for a post other than that of the president?
Yes, he can. But why would you want to do that? No, you can. But wouldn't it be nice to have another leader, to groom another member and enhance his skills? And if you
Sure.
say that there is nobody else, but yes, you need to coax somebody, you need to say we would help you, because ultimately you do not know your strengths, you do not know, you may be a rough diamond. So get that person, and we are all seniors, we need to motivate somebody to do it. But we can't have that person join Toastmasters and just come and sit at the meetings, not contribute. So motivate somebody to take up the position, handhold the person. And if you feel that, yes, he has the capabilities and he is interested, then take him on as a buddy to somebody else, so that he gets to learn a bit of the positions, etc. So I think, Hasnain, we've been doing that. So that's what needs to be done. I know that in a physical meeting, we identify, because we meet one-on-one and we know who is, what it is, what are their capabilities, etc. But on an online meeting, it becomes rather difficult. But of course, if you have a good networking with amongst you all, and then you can identify who it is, probably help that person sharpen his skills.
DTM. Just to conclude my understanding of this, I agree entirely with your philosophy of identifying people to take on the mantle of leaders. Sometimes in this online happens faster than it used to. And so we are looking at people who will have the staying capacity for the entire year. And the easy way out, of course, is to get in somebody who has already been there, done that. But yes, you have answered my question that it is not against the rules for the president who is conducting the elections to stand for a post other than that of the president. Thank you, DTM Arvind.
So at that time, then the chair will do it. Let the chair conduct the elections.
For that particular post?
No, through the whole thing, because he's already standing for a position. So let the chair conduct the whole thing.
All right. Thank you, DTM. Thank you.
Thank you, Hasneen. We have one more hand raised, Toastmaster Ravindra. Also, to all the others who have questions, please do raise your hand because I might miss out if there's a question in the chat.
Thank you, Kavya.
Yes.
Good evening, DTM Ravi Arvind.
Good evening. And one thing, please avoid the DTM part. We're all Toastmasters, so forget about the DTM. DTM is something which is already said and done and dusted. So just call me by my first name, because in Toastmasters and at any meeting, we always address everybody as the first name. I may have winter in my hair, but that doesn't mean that there's summer in my heart as yet. So let's address each other by the first name. There's no sir, even if you find that there's a senior or somebody who's got a DTM 10 times, but let's address the person because we're all peers and learning together. Yes, Ravindra.
Yeah, just a question. This annual or frequency of elections.
Yes.
Regarding frequency of elections. Yes. Is it mandatory or it is just a suggestion guidelines by the TMI that any club that meets every week can hold the elections semi-annually? It can also hold the elections annually if required, or if it feels it correct.
It's ideal to have the elections. I say ideal because I'm sure Toastmasters International knows why they are saying that you need to have the elections. If it's a semi-annual club, you must have the elections semi-annually. Understand, Ravindra, that it's a voluntary organization. I am volunteering my time and effort. So a week after week, if I have to conduct this, in addition to all that I have to actually do to earn my bread and butter and also my family life, to do that every week, you will burn out if you're going to do that for one complete year. So that's why they say the president may want to continue. He can continue, but he needs to have 2 terms if you are supposed to get into the DTM. One of the requirements is that you need to have a year as the president, or you need to have served 2 terms. So you may like to serve 1 6-month term, take a break, and then again come in and do this next 6 months term. That way is okay, but let's not have the burnout. So that I feel that's the reason why Toastmasters International has very categorically mentioned in the handbook that semi-annual clubs will conduct their elections twice in a year.
Thank you.
And also you get new members coming up. You develop more leaders. The division, the area, the district gets more leaders.
Fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravindra. Next, we have Rachna raised her hands.
Yes, Rachna.
Hey, Arvind. I had a question that is there any requirement for a member to have any levels completed before nominating for any ExCom role, or rather president?
Yes, there isn't anything set by Toastmasters International. But if you want to lead, you need to know, you need to have been in the movement for some time at least to understand what Toastmasters is all about. I can make a leeway for a person who's for a new club, because a new club will have to have hand holding and understanding, and there will be a lot of help that they require to understand their position and the jobs that are to be done. But if it's a club that's with a year or 2 years old, and if I have just joined the club, can I just go and become a president? Do I know anything about Toastmasters? Do I know what the values are? Do I know what is my position? What are the requirements? Even if I have read it, and even if I am the president of a of my own company, it's a different ball game. As far as Toastmasters, it's a service leadership that is there. Whereas in the corporate, it is what I say has to be done. Here, it is you have to take everybody together with you, and to be the president, you need to have certain qualities. You need to understand what Toastmasters is all about. You need to know what are the requirements that the club requires, the area requires, the division, because understand that every contribution from the club adds to the area, and the area adds to the division, and division ultimately to the district, which goals that the Toastmasters International have given to every district to achieve. So, right, if you don't have the correct leadership right at the club level, then the members are not going to feel happy, because ultimately you have to look for the members and you have to see what they require and help them out. So you need to have all those qualities which you develop over a year or two, depending on how interested you are.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachna. Let's take this as our last question. Ranjini? You are on mute.
Good evening, Arvind. Now, in a physical meeting, whenever elections are conducted, what if the nominated candidate is not able to attend the meeting due to unforeseen circumstances? Can he or she send a campaign speech video, or can the president or whoever is conducting the elections can read out the campaign speech on that person's behalf? Thank you.
To the best of my knowledge, it says in the book that the person needs to be physically present.
No, there was a case wherein, we had the elections, and on that particular day, that particular candidate has to appear for entrance exam. Obviously, the choice will be there. So in such cases, what do we do?
All right. So then I think you can have somebody who will deliver his message. The 2 minute, if there is going to be another candidate opposing, then probably he can give see, the thing is, how will he refute? How will he refute if he is the first person speaking? Okay, but if he is the second person to speak, then he can always change his selling pitch. Which, if he is not present, then it will not be possible. But yes, of course, you can, in really unavoidable circumstances, you may want to have. But it's ideal to have the person there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ranjini. So I'm sure we all had a quite informative session, and this helps all of us with our individual club elections. Thank you for all the questions, and thank you, Arvind for conducting this session. So with this, we can close this session today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hardik, for facilitating this meeting, helping me in this meeting. Thank you.